And to the freshman congressman, thank you for being here, and thank you for participating with us. Welcome to the seat of our great republic. You will now be honored by many and hated by the rest, right? Now, you are among the greatest leaders and our most humble servants. You are the first servants of the public. You're created by the public, you're maintained by it, and you're responsible to it. And the honor that is now afforded to you is a result of your relationship to the public. I have the honor of speaking to you today, not to preach or to lobby or to try to conform you or whatever, but I'm here to try to somehow define the Tea Party movement in terms of our American heritage, the Founding Fathers, and that most heavenly banner, the Constitution of the United States. I don't speak for the Tea Party movement. In fact, the secret to the Tea Party movement is that no individual does speak for it. Thousands of local and state Tea Party volunteer coordinators, hundreds of thousands of activists, and millions of members make up the Tea Party movement, all from Main Street, USA. The only figurehead of the Tea Party movement is not to be seen in human form, but it cries from the hearts and the souls of the people. The laws of nature and of nature's God. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The Tea Party movement seeks only to listen to the voice of truth, virtue, and liberty. A few years ago, when my 11-year-old daughter was just 8 years old, she had attended a conference in which I was speaking, and when we were driving home after the conference, she began asking me, "Daddy, why can't we shoot off fireworks in our own yard?" You see, at this time, Arizona restricted fireworks 100%. We couldn't even have firecrackers, no sparklers, nothing. And I said, well, it's because government thinks we're not quite responsible enough to shoot off fireworks in our own yard. She said, but Daddy, she asked confused, she said, you're able to shoot off the big fireworks during Constitution Week. And she's right. Every September in Gilbert, Arizona, we do a big 4th of July style fireworks show for Constitution Week. And I said, well, that's true, but I have to get permission from government in order to do that. And she said, but they give you permission, right? She asked rhetorically, and then she continued, and so they obviously think you're responsible enough to shoot off the big fireworks, but not the small ones in your own yard? And I said, yeah, it doesn't make much sense, does it? And she said, no. 8 years old thinking this. She then continued to ask me similar questions. Daddy, why is government doing this, and why does government do that? Finally, in her frustration, she exerted simply, why don't we just tell government to stop? Well, that's a pretty good idea, I said, but government's gotten a little bit too big, a little bit too powerful to just tell them to stop. And then she paused for a moment. Oh, like a king. I said, exactly like a king. And then she said, oh no, don't tell me we have to go through that again. So I began to ask her, what's she talking about? And she said, well, Revolutionary War and all those things. And I assured her that that wouldn't have to happen because the Founding Fathers provided something for us. They fought for something for us that they did not have. And this ability, this power to vote, or the power to petition our government with the redress of our grievances, or the ability to run for office ourselves without religious tests and things like that. And so it's just an amazing thing what the founders gave us. And so I assured her that if we did have to rise against our government, it would be by peaceful means because of these great founding fathers. What a blessing it is to live in such a time and in such a manner when we as individuals can rightfully take our place as the kings of our own dominions and not as slaves of a usurper. Many accuse the Tea Party of being archaic or ancient, or that we want to turn the clock back. Some even go as far as to say that that we want to go back to slavery or back to the pre-women's vote eras. Well, that is kind of crazy. I'm here to declare to you that the Tea Party's only desire is to further the light of liberty and to free the heart and mind of mankind. And we're going to do that in our country through constitutionally limited government. And we can do that throughout the world by being the light on a hill in the midst of these most troubling times. The Tea Party movement is nothing more but a reclamation of our birthright to liberty and to secure the pinnacles of the Enlightenment given to us by the settlers and founders of this great nation. You see, mankind has often been on the cusp of freedom, but very rarely has that freedom been realized. Polybius and Cicero almost saw Greece and Rome embrace liberty, but they soon fell to the despots who stripped the people of enlightenment and ruled with blood and horror upon this earth. However great Rome appeared in its exertions, it was in general no better than a principal holding together a band of robbers in their attempts to crush all liberty except for their own. The children of Israel enjoyed freedom through an enlightened structure of representative government until they lost it and digressed back to a king simply because they wanted a king to take care of them and to fight their battles for them. They wanted a king because their neighbors all had a king. The Anglo-Saxons were very close to liberty due to an enlightened understanding of natural law until the Norman conquest came and corrupted their system of government and plunged their world into the Dark Ages. Now, man was finally begun to be freed by the Dark Ages through the Renaissance and the religious reformers. They broke the chains of ignorance through science and through personal religious enlightenment. But theirs was still bound by a feudal system of kings and peasants. And then along came Algernon Sidney and John Locke, who boldly declared that there was no such thing as the divine right of kings, but that the individual is the only one who has the right to govern themselves. Blackstone, Smith, Montesquieu, and others continued to pave the way for an extraordinary people on a promised land under extraordinary conditions to establish a land of liberty. America was the first nation to truly implement all of the great enlightened ideas of human history. The natural law principles of Cicero and Locke, the separation of powers and checks and balances of Polybius and Montesquieu, and Adam Smith's free market economics. You see, the founders had very few original ideas of their own. Their genius was to glean from history all of the great enlightened ideas and determine what worked and what didn't work. These scholars of history were truly enlightened, and their work has freed the mind of man all over the earth. The founders and the Declaration of Independence is the pinnacle of the Enlightenment, and the Constitution is the capstone. How is it that my 8-year-old daughter can see what the political pundits, so-called progressives, and many elected officials, and even many of the dumbed-down citizenry cannot see? She sees that the current course of our country is returning us back to the dark ages of a king rather than continuing us on the course of enlightenment. I profess to you that the Tea Party movement is the true movement of progress. We desire nothing more than to continue to have liberty to be enlightened and to not return to the ages of captivity and bondage. We do not believe in the doctrine of the divine right of kings, or that an elite class somehow is born the privilege of governing others, even against our will. To believe in that doctrine implies that God made mankind to be oppressed and to be plundered. We believe that the people are equal under the law, regardless of title or bloodline. We believe that one group of people deserve more. We do not believe that one group of people deserve more protection or more things than others. We believe that all people are equal in their rights, and those rights should be equally protected. We believe that the proper role of government is to protect equal rights, not provide equal things. We want America to continue to progress in the principles of independence, not the chains of dependence. We are for truth, virtue, and liberty. By the diffusion of truth, we distinguish ourselves from a country of bigots and barbarians. By the practice of virtue, we distinguish ourselves from a country of corruption. and by the possession of liberty, we distinguish ourselves from a country of slaves. We simply want to continue on with the Enlightenment movement, a movement to be free. We can learn our duty from the oppressors of the world. They knew that light was hostile to them. Therefore, they labor to keep people in the dark and keep them dependent and ignorant. Our duty is to promote liberty, which allows the people to be free and independent. As Jefferson once said, enlighten the people. Enlighten the people, and tyranny and oppression will vanish like evil spirits at the dawn of day. Those reformers of yesteryear sowed the seed which has taken root and is now growing up to be a glorious harvest. Now, in this season of Thanksgiving, I'm reminded of Congress's and President George Washington's Thanksgiving Proclamation of 1789, where George Washington said, quote, "Now therefore, I do recommend and assign Thursday, the 26th day of November next, to be devoted by the people of these states in rendering unto God our sincere and humble thanks for the peaceable and rational manner in which we have been enabled to establish the Constitution for our safety and happiness." George Washington and Congress are specifically encouraging the people here to give thanks for our federal and state constitutions, because that Constitution has helped provide, as the proclamation goes on to declare, and I quote, "the civil and religious liberty with which we are blessed, and the means we have of acquiring and diffusing useful knowledge," close quote. As recognized by Washington and the other founders, the Constitution is the capstone to the enlightenment of mankind. This is why the Constitution is so sacred to the Tea Party movement. Not because it will supposedly bring us back to previous times because we're hung up with tricorner hats and all those things, but because that document and the principles that it enshrines has done more to free the mind of man than any other government in the history of the world. The Constitution is not an oppressive document. On the contrary, the Constitution provided a mechanism to pull this country from the economic ruin in the 1780s. It united 13 fiercely independent states. It freed the slaves, and it ended up providing for the equal vote of women and minorities and secured that vote. And it will continue to carry on the cause of liberty as long as we keep it. In fact, and I know that this is a bold statement, if we adhere to the original intent of the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and the Declaration of Independence, they can solve every single problem facing our nation today if we just let them. The Tea Party movement is a modern continuation of the Enlightenment, and like Benjamin Franklin, we see America as a rising sun. At the end of the Constitutional Convention, Franklin remarked about a sun carved on the back of George Washington's chair, where he said, "I have often, through the course of the session, looked at that sun without being able to tell whether it was setting or rising." And he said, "But now I have the happiness to know it is a rising and not a setting sun." To the freshman congressman, you are now the newest stewards of our Constitution. We plead with you that you will put the Constitution up above special interests and above parties, above leadership, and yes, even above constituents, because its principles reign supreme. We plead with you to know it, to honor it, to protect it, and to keep it. And you can be assured that the Tea Party patriots will be here against all odds and will rise above all obstacles to stand with you in protecting that capstone of the Enlightenment, that most heavenly banner, the Constitution of the United States of America. God bless you in the defense of it, and God bless America.